Hey, we're back for live Locked On Lions squad show. The Lions preparing for a Christmas Day matchup in Minnesota against the Minnesota Vikings. Will the blackout be enough to silence the whiteout, Bradford Banta?
Welcome in, everybody. This is Bradford Banta, 22-year NFL veteran. And if you hear a low rumble in Minneapolis this weekend, don't worry. That's just the Lions pulling into U.S. Bank Stadium with bad intentions and a receipt.
One pride. It's the Lions Squad. Everything Detroit Lions every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Motor City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the roar of the Lions to the next great chapter, the Lions Squad Show starts now.
Here we go. Welcome one, welcome all. Jake Riepma, Bradford Banta Live, Locked On Lions squad show on the #1 sports podcast platform, the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you like today's episode. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because what the heck are you waiting for? Fired up to be with you on this live edition of the Locked On Lions squad show as the Lions get set to take on the Minnesota Vikings. Today's episode, well, it's brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. We are down one squad member, Natalie Kerwin, on the West Coast with the Detroit Pistons, but that's the kind of dedicated coverage you get on the live Locked On Lions squad show. Natalie Kerwin, the ever so talented, versatile sideline reporter for the Detroit Pistons, and of course on the Locked On Lions squad show. But you got me, Jake Riepma, you got Bradford Banta. What's happening, man?
Hey, man, I think just, you can call it what it is. We are a well-rounded crew, and we will take up for each other no matter what the circumstances. If we're down a rose, the two thorns will rise to the occasion.
That's right. I love it. We're still going to have Nat's notes as part of today's show. We'll have a nice little preview on the Minnesota Vikings as well, and the Coach's Corner, where Bradford will break down the tape and the X's and O's for us and wrap it up with our final thoughts. So if you're watching us live, get comfortable, buckle up. It's a Tuesday edition, but Bradford Banta, we begin with this quick turnaround, familiar territory for the Detroit Lions. It feels like more often than not, we're playing Thursday games at this point in the season. You had Thanksgiving, you had the Thursday night primetime game against the Dallas Cowboys, and now here we are back on a Thursday, a Christmas Day game that will be on Netflix. Always love the players' perspective from this, and not to be repetitive, because we've done this before, but man, that Sunday to Thursday turnaround, tough on the body.
We talked about it, how the players recover and all this. I think it was last week we were talking about. So I am not getting into the details of how they go about recovering.
Yeah, which foam rollers are they using?
You know what? I'm talking. So, but I'll just tell you this: rest is key, and then taking care of your body. And we all know that the Lions desperately need the rest, and they desperately need to come out of this game with a win. But the short turnaround is indicative of last year's success that they had. And with success comes more primetime games, and that's how the league views it. If you were to, I remember, whenever we had success, whenever I was coaching at Detroit, we had success one season. It was a big deal for us to get a Monday night football game. And it was just, and we did. And we got a home Monday night football game. That was another huge deal. I can remember people walking up and down the hallways whenever the schedule came out in May. And, guys were genuinely excited about it. And with the victories come the spoils. And with those spoils come, Jake, it's hard on the body. Let's just say that. Because you have another 4-day turnaround where you have to get ready to play. I would imagine that they're just going to be running around just a little bit just to get the blood flowing through the body, get all that lactic acid out of the body, and try to be as fresh as you can be, because you're never going to be 100% fresh in this point of the season. And and then mental reps, and it's not keeping the players in meetings so much, but just having walkthroughs, meetings, another walkthrough, meeting, another walkthrough, meeting, and then possibly a little conditioning at the end. Are they wearing helmets right now? I have not been able to. I don't know. There's a possibility that they are, just to protect the noggin, but other than that, they got to get ready to play, because the good part is that they know this opponent, because it is a divisional rival. The bad part is that they're going to have to be traveling up to Minneapolis to play this game at US Bank Stadium.
Yeah.
In the travel, it takes a little bit of toll on the body. It takes you a little bit out of your comfort zone, because things are so, how do I want to put it? Just reliable for home games. You know what's going to happen. And it's just that travel aspect, and they've done it enough on the road this year to know what to expect. And then they're playing 4:30 Eastern time, 3:30 Central kickoff. So it'll give them a little bit of extra time in the morning just to kind of sleep in. And then I'm sure they'll wake them up. They'll get the body activated. They'll have some meetings, and then they'll go back and rest a little bit, go eat pregame meal, and then off to the stadium you go.
Yeah. And I'm sure you can appreciate this comment I'm about to make, given that we've pegged you as, the let's just call it the wisest of the Locked On Lions squad show, with your wisdom and experience. But I'm old enough
at times.
Yes. I'm old enough to remember when prime time meant Sunday night or Monday night. And the implementation of Thursday night games is, we all know it's about the almighty dollar sign, and it's such a slippery slope. The NFL is never going back, especially with the players union agreeing to kind of almost get their piece of the pie, and not to get into all of that, but there's enough revenue and everything else with the addition of Thursday night games that we know it's not going anywhere. But I do think that there is almost like a look back, kind of, not the good old days, but something to the effect of, hey, primetime used to mean Sunday night or Monday night, where you weren't punished. I really do see it as a punishment in some ways to play on these Thursday night games. And maybe that's too harsh of a term, but okay, you play one Thursday night game, you play a Thanksgiving game, but this is the third time, and it's on Christmas. And on top of all that, I think there's an element where this juncture in the season, it's not as big of there's not as much of a lure as what you are referring to. And I'm a fan. I remember as a fan when it was just uncommon for the Lions to get these primetime games, where it is more of a burden than anything else. Do you think that's a jump for me to take that stance?
Yeah, as a fan, yes. And I had a coach once put it to us this way, and it was aptly put. And he even stated, he goes, I like the holidays just as much as the rest of you. They just come at the wrong time of the year. And that's just during football season, which is the facts. And that's generally whenever you're going to draw your biggest audiences. And given the Christmas Day game, and it happens to fall on a Thursday. Now, if it were to happen on a Wednesday or Tuesday, now you're getting into a little Maction type situation by playing football 7 days a week. But with it falling on a Thursday this year, you're going to have the 3 NFL games, and then how many NBA games are going to be played? And then are they going to have NHL games going on as well? That I'm not sure. I know they have NBA games, but I'm not sure about the NHL games.
Yeah, definitely
will be taking place.
Right. One of those things that comes with the territory for sure. I do want to welcome everyone that's joining us on the live version of today's show. Mix in some comments as well. We start with Justin Hecht, 6662. I can't help myself from being hopelessly optimistic. We need Green Bay to lose and obviously the Lions to win for some hope to remain alive in the last week. Let's have a little spontaneous discussion about exactly that, Bradford Banta, because here we are a couple days removed from the instant reaction post-game show. We've had a little bit of time to ponder, let it settle a little bit. And where I'm at with it is I want to take the optimistic or positive approach that it's kind of a quote unquote win-win where, hey, you make some magic happen. Obviously, the goal is always to extend the season and win the playoffs. You get some help from Green Bay. That's best case scenario. But I really look at Sunday's loss to the Steelers as a wake-up call, especially when you consider the implications of the loss on the season, to where now, even if you win, you do not have control of your own destiny. But from fans' perspective, hey, I'm right there with you, Justin. Hopelessly optimistic.
Look, if you can win out, more power to you. Should you have taken care of business earlier in the season? Yes. The thing to keep in mind here is a couple things were broken with this loss. So it's the first time since 2023, I believe it was, that the Lions have lost back-to-back games. Is that correct in saying that? It was
2022, I think.
2022. Yeah, I couldn't remember, but I was thinking 2022. I was like, God dang, that's a long time ago. But the Lions have had sustained success over these last 3 seasons, and it was, and hats off to them. But at the same time, it's time to start a new streak. Now, what does that streak entail? Let's get on a 2-game run right here. Let's see where the cards fall where they may, and then you use those 2 victories. If you get a seat at the table for the playoffs, then your season continues. If you don't, then you use these 2 victories to vault yourself into success for next year. And you have to if you do not make it to the playoffs, then they have to let that eat at them all offseason and rethink about how they go about their process, what needs to change, because that's something that you always ask yourself as a coach, as a leader, as a player, taking care of your own body and taking care of your own self, but especially as a coach and as a leader, let's say general manager Brad Holmes, they have to think of, okay, what do we need to do differently than what we have been doing in the past? Because we obviously have had a hiccup here of some sort. What is that? Whether it be through free agency, whether it be through the draft, whether it be through how they manage their players during practice, how they practice the players. How many times do you go out? How hard do you practice them whenever you are in full pads? How hard do you practice them whenever you're not in full pads? Because, I always thought it was, personally, as a player and as a coach, I thought it's funny. It's like, yeah, we're going to give the guys a break today. Or as a player, like, oh, they're giving us a break today. We're going out in half pads. That doesn't mean anything. You look at, oh gosh, probably 80% of the league doesn't wear anything, on their thighs or their knees. So they're playing in half pads. And so how many times are you going to go about doing that? And how you just have to look back at things, and you can't always blame it on injuries. Talking about the season, there's something in the process that's not clicking with the current squad to have these injuries that have occurred. And it's something whenever the offseason comes around that you're definitely going to have to take a look at if you're in the Lions organization.
No, for sure. And I thought, that's a good way to close this first segment, just tying a knot on all of the kind of reaction to that game specifically and what Dan Campbell had to say, where we have no one to blame but ourselves. So you can relate that to the refereeing in that game, and you can relate that to injuries and the accountability factor which I believe to be a staple in the Lions culture and a staple of any good culture, at the forefront with Dan Campbell at the very top there, is still ever so prevalent, which I thought was reassuring hearing Dan Campbell say that. And and talk post game is one thing, but now can we see it in action, in not a more of a response, a response to the way this season has gone and the adversity that this team has seen. And I'm still confident that this Lions team can continue that moving forward.
Agreed. I aptly put, my man. So I'd say we tie a bow on this segment and move on to the next.
Hey, let's do it. Let's talk some Nats notes minus Natalie Kerwin when we come back. We will do our best to continue her famous, world famous segment. Nats notes is next on the live.
Please help us.
Hey, today's episode of the Locked On Lions Squad Show is brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. I believe, in fact, it is brought to you by FanDuel. That's right. Hang on, we're doing this live. Everybody hang on. There it is. How about that? All over it, my friends. Check minus on the FanDuel. Let's try that again. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels a little bit different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, and the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump in at that very moment. Live spreads, money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up, and you can bet the next touchdown scorer, drive results, totals, and so much more to keep you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Live Locked On Lions Squad Show. Jake Riepma, Bradford Banta, missing Natalie Kerwin, but she's on the West Coast covering the Detroit Pistons, West Coast road trip, sideline reporting, and everything else for FanDuel. And we can't wait for when she's back to join the Locked On Lions Squad Show. It's that crossover season, Bradford Banta, but it's time right now for Nats Notes. And this is the segment we dive into everything that's going on with the Detroit Lions, initial injury reports, practice nuggets, and it just seems like yesterday the Lions were coming off the field at Ford Field and now getting ready for a road trip against the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, did you happen to see Nat's post the other day with Rasheed Wallace?
I did. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's my all-time favorite Detroit Piston. So I was.
Is it really?
Cool. Yes.
Very nice.
Yes, I used to. A quick side story, since we've got time for it today. I wanted to be Rasheed Wallace, and that included all of the trash talking and the technical fouls. And as a sophomore in high school, leading the team in technical fouls was not really not a good thing for a young Jake Riepma. My parents were none too pleased that was the player that I wanted to be like. But hey, he was an NBA champion at that time.
Yeah, because I've met him once, right? He was in the locker room one day. This is whenever I was playing. He was good friends with Dre Bly, cornerback, for the Detroit Lions. And obviously both of them went to North Carolina, and with Dre playing in Detroit and as with Rasheed as well, you walk in the locker room one day and you see this 6 whatever Rasheed is, and you're just like, holy cow. Like I think I'm tall, but then you look at some of these guys and just the length on these guys, and I'm not talking about just height alone. I'm talking about just the arm length, the arm. I'm sorry, I'm looking at some of the comments, but forget it. The arm length, the legs, and it's gangly, but at the same time, you're like, God, man, this guy can play. And it was it was kind of cool. just to see. I always like it whenever you have hometown interaction between the pro sports teams and they come out and they support each other. I think it's ever so important because we had, whenever I was coaching with the Lions, we had some friends. I had a couple buddies that were coaches for the Red Wings, and it was fun to go out and watch their practice. And just after practice, you start talking about philosophy and the way things are done. And football is so structured in everything that you do. Everything is down to the minute. I mean, everything is down to the minute, what you're going to be doing every day, all day. And the Red Wings coach looked at me. He goes, man, if we had a structure like that, he goes, the players would revolt. So, right, because we would tell him, he's like, we're doing this, at, let's say at 9:23, this is where we're going to be. And then at, 11:46, we'll be out on the field doing this. And he's just like, are you kidding me? And then whenever I was coaching with the then Redskins at the time, I would take my son out to go watch the Caps practice. And the Caps had an open practice, and Duke would always try to collect as many pucks as we could. And there was a point in time in our garage, we probably had, I would say, 50 plus pucks that he collected at the Caps practice. Yeah, no, it's great, because you had, just all that time. I had left a year before they won the Stanley Cup. I think they won the Stanley Cup in 19.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. They won it in 17. I think it was. Are you looking it up right now?
I am. Yes.
No. Okay. It was 17 because we flew the flag of the Washington Capitals out in front of our house. And I told my kids, I told my wife, I was like, hey, we have to be the only family in Louisiana probably flying a Stanley Cup champion flag in front of our house.
Yes, that's hilarious. Google AI says 2018, right in the middle.
Okay,
so,
there you go.
Okay, that's oh man, that's awesome. But no, I do. Back to the original point. Like I think it's great when athletes are out, coaches. I mean, there's so much you can learn from other, just talking and referencing the different sports and ways, the preparation is a part of it and everything. And Tarek Skubal comes to mind. He was doing the tour this weekend, and many believing there's alternate motives behind that. But it's just, when you said that, that's what popped into my head as the most current example of that, from him going to the Michigan State Oakland game, to a Pistons game, to a Red Wings game, to a Lions game. And I mean, that's quite the tour there. That's a hell of a weekend.
Yeah, no doubt. All right.
But yeah, let's do it. So Lions, quick week. We could go up and down this list as far as guys that were limited or didn't practice one way or the other. So you got for the Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Taylor Decker, Avonte Maddox. All three of those guys didn't practice. But again, to your point, what does that really mean with the type of practice that it is leading up to such a short week?
Yeah, it's some of them, like I would imagine Monday was probably a projection that these guys would not have practice because they're going to be out on the field. It's mainly film time. They're going to blink the game from the day before and just pull out certain plays. I'm not going to call them highlights. I promise you that much. But they're going to pull out certain plays that they want to bring up coaching points and bring it to the players' attentions. And then now they're immediately going to jump into the Minnesota Vikings. And I promise you that the coaches went from Ford Field over to Allen Park to the practice facility as soon as that game was over to jump on the Minnesota Vikings, and because the previous games have already been broken down, then this past Sunday's game is the one that they had to break down and then tabulate all the formulas and start game planning on what they're going to do in certain field positions and how they're going to attack them special teams. And that's kind of how everything breaks out whenever you have these short weeks and the players are going to show up, they're going to show up Monday morning, and they're going to have a full-on game plan presented to them in a condensed fashion. And you're going to go over first and second down, talking about the primary plays. And then on Tuesday is going to be red zone, short yardage, and goal line. And in the meantime, on special teams, they're going to go over probably limited kicking, but they're going to go through every possible scenario that could possibly happen on the field on Thursday with kickoff return, punt return, and as well as field goal and field goal block.
100%. And on the other side, JJ McCarthy is obviously the center of the conversation for the Vikings, leaving their win over the Giants with and did you happen to see that video where he was getting examined by the medical staff there? And I've said this time and time again, but it's worth repeating every single time. My medical knowledge or expertise is that, I mean, it's about this big if you're watching on the YouTube, and less than that. I just know when he winces in pain, when a certain spot is hit, that's not a good thing for a quarterback that needs to be able to throw the football. So his status, he didn't practice, up in the air. And obviously that, here we go, pointing out a little bit of the obvious, makes a big difference.
Yeah, no, it makes a big difference. And I'll relay a story to you. Back whenever, oh gosh, this was whenever I was with the Indianapolis Colts. And it was sometime around 97, I think it was. It always happened. We were playing the Buffalo Bills, and I was out there snapping, and it never failed with Bruce DeHaven, may he rest in peace now. But if you made a tackle any of the previous 3 games, it was guaranteed that Bruce was going to put somebody over me and just not let me down the field. And so they had one of their special team stalwarts was Mark Pike. And I walked up to the line. I saw him, and I was deep snapping at the time. I walked up there on punt, and I looked at Mark. He looked at me, and I asked him before I snapped the ball. I'm like, Mark, is it going to be one of those days? and he looks at me, and he goes, yes, it is. I'm like, okay, here we go. So, you get out there, you throw the first snap, you run down, you try to dodge him as best you can. And this is back whenever they could play a guy directly head up, basically a nose guard position on the snapper. And he would align in a 2-point stance, and he would fire off the ball, and we would wrestle, and I would try to work my way downfield, and he'd try to block me. The second punt came up, and it happened sometime in the first half. The second punt came up, and so I snapped. He fired off. He hit me, and I grabbed his face mask to try to throw him off of me, and my hand got twisted, and it got your fingers get all twisted in the face mask, and then I run down the field, and don't make a tackle or anything like that, and I come over on the sidelines, and I go over to the trainers and the team doc, and I was like, hey, I go, can I get my hand taped up? And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, it kind of goosed up on me a little bit, and I had a bump on my hand probably about an inch high.
Oh man.
And they're like, you broke it. I'm like, come on. I'm like, no, I didn't. They're like, no, you broke it. I was like, I called BS on the docs. I was like, no, I didn't. No, I'm like, put some tape on it and let's go.
What do those doctors know?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, put some tape on it and let's go. And they're in Dr. Shelbourne. And he was a longtime team doc at the time. And he's like, okay, Brad. He goes, let me put it in perspective. He goes, shake my hand. And so I shook his hand. Jake, I have never dropped to my knees so quickly from the pain that was in my hand, that shot throughout my hand whenever he just kind of lightly squeezed it. And he's like, come on, you're done for the day. We're going in to get x-rays. I was like, holy cow. And I was like, okay. So I ended up breaking 2 fingers inside the palm, and I was in surgery the next day with Yeah, plates and screws. And I was
Jeez,
like, man, you got to be kidding me. But just talking about the difference between today's medical philosophy and all that kind of stuff. I ended up playing probably 2-3 weeks later, and because they put the plate and screws in and it healed up, and all I put on top of it was just a hard, plaster that I could, and then I fashioned a glove. And what I did with the glove is that I cut out everything but the seams on the inside part of the glove. And that's what I snapped with. And I had to prove to myself, and we had a strength coach at the time, Tom Zupanzik. And Tom had a standing bet with anybody because Tom used to be a power lifter. And his neck was his neck had to have been like 25 inches. And you're just like, he's one of these guys to raise money for charities. He would hold back 2 planes pulling in opposite directions, like 2 single engine planes. And you're just sitting there. And so, but the bet with choking him out was $10,000. If you could choke him out, he would give you 10 grand. And nobody ever got it from him.
Oh my God.
And I ended up, and it's
sad. Hold on, one question. How does that, I get that he has that just on the table of anyone can choke, but how does one like engage? Like, all right, coach, I'm ready to go for it. Is there any ambush or sneak attacks?
No. Well, you know what? I never even thought about that. That's a real good point.
Yeah.
But hey, I did think about this though. So I think it's NFL news. Jim Irsay passed away last May, right? The former owner of the Colts. Yeah. So, and now his daughters, Carly is the primary, and then his other 2 daughters are the other owners of the team. And so I see Zoop, Tom Zupanzik. We called him Zoop, and I see Zoop, walking. And Zoop has to be, he's got to be 68, 70 years old. And, all that powerlifting and stuff caught up to him, and he's walking with a cane, and, he's hunched over just a little bit, but he's still got that little twinkle in his eye. But I was thinking to myself, and I saw him at the funeral, and I saw him after the funeral, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, damn. I'm like, this may be a pretty good time to go after that 10 grand. I wonder if it starts. I wonder if it still stands.
That'd be a great look. Bradford Banta choking out former strength coach who's in a cane.
At a funeral, after a funeral.
Unbelievable. Hey, when Natalie Kerwin sees where her Nat's Notes segment derailed and where we went with that.
Gosh, I didn't even realize that. Yeah, okay.
I'm sure she wouldn't want it any other way in her honor here. But we've got the Coach's Corner coming up next. A little X's and O's breakdown, from choking out former strength coaches to breaking down Lions Vikings. That's what's coming up next. Don't go nowhere. It's the Locked On Lions Squad Show. Hey, today's episode of the Locked On Lions Squad Show is brought to you by our good friends, the Car Gurus. Car shopping should feel exciting, not confusing. And with Car Gurus, you get the confidence you deserve. They cut through all the noise so you can actually see the best deals on the cars you want. Because when it comes to a big purchase, you deserve the best deal. And Car Gurus makes that whole process simple by giving you real information, real deal ratings, and more listings than anyone else so you can shop the way you want to. Use Car Gurus deal ratings to compare cars quickly without having to guess whether the price is fair. You'll love being able to filter by everything, mileage, trim, features, you name it. So you're only seeing the cars that actually fit what you need. The price drop alerts are a lifesaver. You get notified the second a car you're watching becomes a better deal. And the in-depth vehicle reviews help you understand what ownership actually looks like, not just how the car looks online, a little computer picture. Car Gurus connects you with trusted dealerships for a transparent and hassle-free buying process. And with over 4 million listings, the most of any major online automotive marketplace, you'll always find the best deal. Shop the way you want with the tools, data, and unbiased deal ratings that make it easy. Buy or sell your next car today at cargurus.com. That's cargurus.com, cargurus.com. Back with you on a live Locked On Lions squad show. Time now for the coaches' corners. We get set. We make the seamless transition into the X's and O's matchup here. Bradford Banta, take it away.
Man, that's going to be a hard segment to back up. I mean,
It is.
to top. But,
well, I do want to show you some love, and I think the live viewers appreciate the stories. Mastrovi, love the stories. We need a segment called Bradford's Banter.
That's what the off season's for. That is what the off season's for, Mastrovi. We can get into that all you want. Just keep listening and watching. That's all I ask you. So, but let's talk about how to win the game. So it's not going to be, going into this game, both teams want to win, and it's not going to be one team wanted it more than the other. It's going to be the
worst saying in sports, by the way. The worst saying in sports. Oh, this team wanted it more. Like, no.
Yeah, either that or a revenge game. One of the two. Take your pick. I don't know. Nah. But yeah,
get right game. That was one.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Oh, hey.
Yeah. Also a really bad one.
You got me. All right. So we'll continue on. But no, hey, look. They didn't show it the other day, but Detroit Lions offense, and we'll start with the offense. It's truly an elite offense. I mean, they're still averaging, even though they only scored 24 the other day, they're still averaging 30.1 points per game. And believe it or not, they're averaging 6.1 yards per play. And that's, I mean, after the showing that they had the other day, where it just seems like the offense came alive in drives 8, 9, and 10. But 1 through 7, it was just a dud. Just a dud. Especially, I mean, you can't even call the third quarter an offensive showing because one, they gave the Steelers 2 points and they were only on the field for 3 plays. So the team actually only played 3 quarters of football. They didn't have their act together for the first 2 quarters, for the first half. And after what happened with those 3 plays that happened to start out the second half, not start out the second half, but after the Steelers, did their drive in the second half and made me think a little bit here. They finally came alive in the fourth quarter. And that's where you have to take that momentum and into the Minnesota Viking game. Now, the Vikings are going to play it a little bit differently than the Pittsburgh Steelers did, just because of personnel, defensive coordinator with Brian Flores, and the way he likes to mix things up. But I can promise you this, that he's going to try to take advantage of what happens with guard, center, guard, and the merry-go-round that they had at center during the game. They're going to try to take advantage of that situation and put pressure up the middle on Goff. And the more that they can do that, it doesn't spell victory for the Detroit Lions. But if they can find the right mix of players in the middle, and I think that Glasgow is going to be playing again, so it should give the Detroit Lions it will give them more stability in the middle. And I think they still have Ragnow on speed dial. How's that hamstring coming along and all that kind of stuff, but it's a little late in the season for that to happen. So I think they've benched him for the time being, but and so you're also taking on a defense that is number 1 in not allowing TDs in the red zone. So Jake, I have a question for you. So how do you defeat a defense that doesn't allow TDs in the red zone?
Couple of options here.
Okay.
I always love the Bradford Banta questions because it just I get like a little shot of adrenaline, get the momentum going. Like, oh, I don't want to disappoint this mentor,
No.
and I got to prove my football knowledge and give him the right answer that he's looking for, which then is
I
dangerous.
want. Are you going to answer the question with your helmet on, or are you just going to answer the question?
No, the dangerous game then is starting to think like, how would Bradford answer this question, which is very, very scary. But there's a couple options: chunk plays, and then you're not even in the red zone, and you're scoring from the. We had an offensive coordinator who came from the Canadian Football League. I know this is story episodes. We got time, it's just the two of us, and I'll never forget. He had these stupid, cheesy, cliche zones for the field of like it wasn't the red zone, that was the score zone because we had to score. And then the green zone was when we got on this side of the 50 because there's no reason that we couldn't go ahead and score and all this stuff, So I do think, though, the answer to your question, I mean, if you're able to convert on some big chunk plays and score from outside the red zone, then you're not even in the red zone. But creativity and mixing things up when you're in the red zone, I didn't really love the 4th and short call on the play action. And, obviously hindsight's 2020 in that game against the Steelers where, the 4th and short, they're not able to convert on that. But is the answer you're looking for, don't even get in the red zone, just score on big chunk plays?
Exactly. Don't even get in the red zone. Just score on the chunk plays. That's
I need
all
a
you
little
got to
bell
do.
here. Ding, ding,
Yeah,
ding.
ding, ding, ding. I like it. I like it. And another thing that Detroit has to protect against is giveaways. You cannot turn the ball over. Just take what they give you, but whenever the opportunity presents itself in the field of play, not necessarily the red zone, is take those shots and see what you come up with. I think it's going to be important, and then also taking care of the ball. Have max protect to let Goff let him cook up. Let him cook.
Do you think sorry to
No.
interject, just love your opinion on this. Do you think when a team is struggling so much to protect Goff and there was pressure from up the middle, from the edge, everything else, but to go like the simple solution is max protect, but then the offset of that is you've got routes being run by you got one or two options in the routes. Do you think there'll be a noticeable adjustment to where the Lions offense are all of a sudden, and then not to mention you're missing a threat at tight end, multiple threats at tight end? Is the solution as simple as max protect and send one or two guys out in a pattern?
Initially, yes, but then you have checkdowns. So if they just rush 4, if they show like full blitz, max blitz, if they show it, you protect it. And then if they only send 4, then these guys are just running checkdowns. And so they're going to take it if they're dropping 7, then taking the shots down the field is not going to happen. Where you're going to get your nickel and dime, so to speak, your 5, let's say, no, not 5, let's say your 7 to 8 to 15-yard plays is going to be underneath with the catch and run. And if you do that with Amon-Ra, if you do that with Gibbs, if you do that with Montgomery, and then run the tight ends, just a hair deeper down the field and just let them catch and get tackled. So you're looking at 10 plus yards every time. Well, that starts to mount a drive, and that is Goff's kind of sweet spot, is just all those underneath routes, and that's where he's most effective in placing the ball where the defender is not. And then eventually, yes, you're going to find yourself in the red zone, and the defenses tend to change up whenever you get into the red zone, and they tend to play it a little bit tighter. And that's where you can find the solution to your problem is if they jump into a man situation or a quarters type situation where you have those one-on-one matchups. And that's where J-Mo, Amon-Ra, and players like that can really come in, step up, and make big plays either in the red zone or just outside the red zone. So, that's how I view it. Now, if we're looking at defense here against the Vikings offense. So, Vikings offense they're a bottom tier team. I mean, yards per game, they're 28th. Third down, they're 31st. And they just have not been able to get consistent in those areas this year. So, and it's something that we have been harping on show after show after show. Defense has to find a way to get off the field and get off the field quickly. How do you do that? You want on first down to keep it 5 yards or less. Limit the Minnesota Vikings and put them in 2nd and 6 or longer. So you want to force that 3rd and 7 or longer to where they have to go out and they play. Because I tell you, Minnesota has struggled at times or a majority of the season with that. And then with your coverage, you have to disguise it, rotate late, and here's the most important one, is rally around the ball and then tackle along with the peanut punch.
Yeah.
With all of that being said, if you rally and tackle, but if you disguise and rotate late, that's going to make the quarterback hold on to the ball. And that's going to allow your front 4, or if you're blitzing, 5 or 6, get in and get pressure on that quarterback. And then you take the quarterback sack or the TFL. So which would be ideal. And then that's how we're talking about with the defense against against the Vikings offense. Now let's swing over to special teams. So, and this is where the Lions special teams can really make a difference. If they can flip the field on one return, and what I mean by flipping the field, just get the ball past the 50-yard line. That's all we want, either on a kickoff return or on a punt return. Get the ball past the 50-yard line. And if possible, if we can somehow get Fox to pull one of his tools out of his toolbox with one of those funky punts and get the punt returner to muff or get a big hit and have him fumble the ball, we have to be there to jump on it and then steal a possession that way. So it's we were talking, get back to the Lions offense, because we were talking about we need to be perfect in the red zone. One short field, that's all I'm asking for, or that's all we should be asking for. Just give us field position at the end of the game. And whenever we talk about it in the post game, that's one of the things that I'm going to be looking at is the starting field position for both teams. And I'm hoping that the Lions can be on the up and up on that and win that portion of the game.
No, for sure. And I think that's a lot of different things to consider. When you said, flip the field, it just resonated. I keep going back to that Cowboys game, and maybe that I know there's more data points than that, but to me, that just, as soon as I hear special teams, flip the field, when your average starting field position is the 43-yard line, that just made such a huge difference in that game in so many different ways. But hey, let's wrap it up. I've got a high-level question that's being asked nationally about this Detroit Lions team that I want to discuss. And of course, we'll have our final thoughts as well on the Locked On Lions Squad show. Here we go. Final segment of the program. Jake Riepma, Bradford Banta.
Let's go.
Let's go. The question that has been asked on some of the airwaves where I'm at on my station, 105.3 The Fan, as well as some of the questions I've heard nationally that everybody wants to talk about. Nate Burleson was on the Dan Patrick Show, another national program that I listen to nonstop about these Lions. And I think it comes with the territory of the surgence and the ascend to where this Lions team has been the last 2 years to now all of a sudden you're on the outside looking in, need some help. Is the window closing? And it is such a talking head question to go with it. But at the same time, we would be remiss if we didn't just at least take a chunk out of that, take a bite out of that topic. Is the window closing? Because I have some strong feelings about it, but I do think it's worth examining both sides of the coin here, giving a very high level overview of it all. And what that means is the window closing. And again, it speaks to kind of the parity in the National Football League. But Bradford Banta, I ask you, do you feel the Lions Super Bowl window closing?
Okay. Do you want a talking head answer, or do you want just like common sense answer?
I want the comment. Well, let me say, I want the Bradford Banta answer.
Okay, I'll give you both. So the common sense answer is, yeah, the window's closing. Why? Now, this is the talking head answer. So why? Because they need help to get into the playoffs. They controlled their own destiny. Oh gosh, what, 3 weeks ago? Now they don't. They need, like, I mean, it's one big jigsaw puzzle for the Detroit Lions right now for them to make it into the playoffs.
Mhm.
And it'll be interesting to see if the Detroit Lions can win out. And that is going to Minnesota and then going to Chicago and winning both of those games. Can they do it? They help their case, but you need other things to happen. You need the 49ers to lose. You need everybody that's in the running for that wild card spot to lose. And,
well, real quick, it is a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle, but the only path to the playoffs is Lions win out, Packers lose out. Because the Niners with their that's not that's the only way is the Packers to lose out and Lions win out.
Yeah, because I mean because right now they're sitting at what, 7% is what I'm reading. No, it's not good. So they're sitting at 7% and the Buccaneers are sitting at 57%. And the Buccaneers are 7-8. We're sitting here at 8-7. How does that work? It just goes to show just probably how weak the NFC South is.
Right.
But there is a possibility that they could come back and win the NFC South. Talking about the Buccaneers. It probably hinges on the Panthers losing out and then the Buccaneers winning out. But let's get back to the Detroit Lions since we are on the Locked On Lions squad show. So, but they're on the bubble. You went out. It's going to be a tough road to go. They're in the hunt? Yes. So the wins will help, but there's no margin left. It's I don't know, Jake. It doesn't look good for the Detroit Lions as we speak right now. So you don't want these pride games or anything like that. You play every week to go out and win. So just go out there, take care of business, handle your business on an individual level and on a team level, and the cards will fall where they may. Yeah. And that's all you can do right now. So
I think
you can't check scoreboards. You have to handle your business.
Right. From a team building standpoint and, front office, general manager on down, I think there's a lot to be said about the way this team is built to continue to win in the future. And our guy, Justin Hecht here, 6662, of the top 10 stars of the team, they're all below 30, other than Goff, who's just barely above 30. The core pieces to build off are still young and rising. And I would agree with that sentiment, on top of the fact that a lot of these guys have signed their extensions and their second contracts, talking about Aiden Hutchinson, J-Mo at the beginning of the year, Kirby Joseph's gotten paid, those core pieces. And you'd like to think injuries never being an excuse, certainly not, but a factor. as far as this team being set up to win in the future. And obviously they don't control their destiny this season for the remainder of it, but I'm very confident that, the future of the Detroit Lions organization continues to be extremely bright with the culture in place, with the foundation, with the everything that represents the Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell era of Detroit Lions football. But let's wrap it up with our final thoughts on this one, a little score prediction. We'll have to get Nats on the other side, fire up the old Locked On Lions squad show group chat, which we do often. But Bradford Banta, I'll start with you. What do you think in this one?
No, I think, look, I'm definitely going to pick the Lions with a victory, and I'm going 31-26.
I like that. 31-26. I think this is a response game from the defense. And even at times in that first half against the Pittsburgh Steelers, there was some things to build on. You other than that late touchdown, you're 10 seconds away from holding them to 3 and maybe 6 if they get a late field goal. But obviously the Gainwell acrobatic touchdown changes all that. But I think this is a bounce back game for the Lions defense. I'm going to go 28-17 Lions.
Okay, I like it. Yeah, I would like to get both Montgomery and Gibbs on the field at the same time. I think that the way that the Steelers used Gainwell and Warren the other night, it benefited them, and because it'll stretch the defense out if you put Gibbs out in the slot or even line him up wide and just let him use his speed.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it would be an interesting, at least something to look at. Holy
For sure.
cow,
Yep. 100% with you. All right, that's going to do it for the Locked On Lions squad show. We will have a little bit different of a schedule as it relates to the post-game show. Everybody enjoy Christmas, the holiday, with their friends and family and everything else. So we're going to do our post-game show Friday morning, the day after Christmas, the 26th. So it won't necessarily be an instant reaction show, but it will be a reaction show post-game style, bright and early for Bradford Banta. We'll get it out there. Of course, you can catch today's show and every show whenever it's convenient for you on the audio only version, wherever you get your podcast, on the #1 sports podcast platform, the Locked On Podcast Network. How was that, Bradford? How did we deliver that?
Perfect. Love it. That is, what you're just, you're consistent. That's the part I like about it. We know what we're getting from Jake Riepma.
I appreciate that. Not consistent enough, though. I'm something like, well, if we just were to put a number on it, maybe like 599 out of 600. It's that one that will cost you. You're only as good as your shortcomings. But seriously, Bradford Banta and Natalie Kerwin, I know she's not here today. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Let's go Lions. Couple more games here. This has been a blast. And we'll talk to you on Friday.